Hi, I'm Liz Train, and I am an artist who works in many media, very often fiber, but I've been doing fused glass for about the last 12 years or so. And what inspires me is nature. So I work with gardens and birds and fish and all sorts of things that come from nature. And I love color, so my work is very colorful. So this piece is kind of like a collage. I put blue and turquoise, and then there's clear on top to make the clouds, and all different colors of green. When I get that done, I put the birds on top and the trees on top. This particular one is fired full fuse, so you can see that the surface is smooth. These little things here were called dragon eyes. They're round, previously fired pieces, and these are the millefiori, which are shaped like flowers. They're things that you can purchase because they've got the little flower already embedded in the pattern. Sometimes I don't fire it all the way to full fuse, which leaves us with one like this. Same theme, birds in a garden, but bumpy. And this one has, in addition to the flat pieces of glass, it has what we call dragon eyes. And the dragon eyes are made with little pieces of glass just cut out and fired in the kiln to full fuse so they get round and smooth. There's a little bit of what we call frit, and this particular one happens to be dichroic frit, so it's shiny. It's got a special metallic surface to it. This is one, I've been working with a lot of houses in addition to birds and trees. And this one was called Pandemic Neighbors because we all kind of stayed home in our houses during the pandemic. And up in here, you can see there's this funny little ghost of a thing, which is kind of like the COVID virus lurking in the air. We're not quite sure what it is at this point, but it's lurking in the air, and we're hoping to stay home and be safe. So that's what this one's about. Our show that's coming up is called Inspirations, and we are working in conjunction with the Handweavers Hui. The Hawaii Handweavers Hui is the other group that I belong to. And so I had done last year, I had done a work in weaving, and this is what you call double weave. And so the double weave, first of all, weaving has threads that go this way, which are the warp threads, and this way, which are the weft threads. And as you can see, what's happening here is an entire rainbow of colors. The colors change depending on if you're looking at the front or the back. They alternate, and they weave together to make interesting patterns and shapes. So one color on the top, one on the bottom, and then two different things going across the other way for the weft threads. You end up with a very complex color scheme. I liked that idea. So I started thinking about stringers and how stringers are like threads. And I started making pieces that are more like the double weave pieces. And I thought that would be a really interesting combination of weaving and glass. And this was one of the first ones I made, so I still had some straight colors going across. But as you can see, the stringers are put together in kind of a rainbow shape. And then this one is similar, but slightly different. It's looking a little bit more weaverly in that the color goes over and then under, over and then under. So things are starting to really weave through, not actually physically, but because I shifted the way the stringers are placed. And then I decided to play with that a little further and put in more solid shapes, getting a little bit further back to the collage idea. And some of those dragon eyes I mentioned earlier, but full fuse. So these are all full fused, they're all flat and glassy until you put them in a mold. So this is the mold that it was fired in to make it into a dish. And when it's in the mold, you can see the mold is actually square, The glass started out square, but it tends to shrink in a little bit as it slumps down into the bottom. So this one, again, is layered. Rainbow stringers, opaque colors, all kinds of things going on. In a slightly different technique. It's a little bit harder to see, not as colorful in this one. Stringers on one layer, clear squares on the other layer, which causes the stringers to squeeze in together. So that looks like weaving to me also. So I'm kind of enjoying being inspired by something a little bit different for this exhibit. When I start my collage process, I usually start with a clear sheet underneath. So here's my clear sheet of glass on top of what we call firing paper. The firing paper will keep the glass from sticking to the kiln shelves once it goes in the kiln. So I just start from here because then I can also see with the white paper underneath, I can see what I'm doing. I start out with a vague idea. I'm not really sure where I'm going with this piece yet. I noticed this piece of glass here and I thought, I'd kind of forgotten I had it. It was in the bottom of the box. So I thought this would make a good sky. So I've got a little piece of sky happening up here. And I'm cutting things very free form. I very rarely use a circle. I'm partial to my little squares here. And I cut this one to square up the bottom. So I'm kind of starting from the top and the bottom and working my way into the middle, which will be the actual composition. Thinking about the sky colors up here. And maybe I'm going to put a house. So I cut this little piece of yellow. It's going to fit right there. When you cut glass, you wear goggles, this little cutting tool, and then what we call a breaker. Now my house has a roof. And I have to figure out what to go behind here. It's just like collage. You build up from the back. Once I get everything designed, I will put some glue on there and hold it together until it gets fired. See, that starts to look kind of interesting. I'll probably put some of those Millefiori flowers in there. And I just kind of play with things and see what's going to work. And here's some stringer bits that I had left over from when I made those. And I might just use some of these. I would actually glue those on last, but for purposes of showing my process, I'm putting them on early. And here's the little Millefiori. You can see the little flower that's already embedded in there. Here's a really cool color too. Maybe some of that's going to end up in there.